Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's Janitor here, back with another cast. Today I'll be casting BratOK, who is the yellow Terran here, against Duckload Raw, or White Raw as he is more commonly known. So let's go ahead and get started here. BratOK spawning as the yellow Terran in the top left corner, and White Raw spawning as the red Protoss in the bottom right. So map is Jungle Basin. I'm actually considering doing a lot more sets, so this will actually be a set of games. This is the first game between obviously White Raw and BratOK. So going into the game, this is Jungle Basin, and a few things to note about Jungle Basin. You've got this really easily defended backdoor expansion. It's really nice to be able to hold this, and really the only entrance in here is these destructible rocks. Now the important thing to note is usually destructible rocks mean, a secondary attack and really hard to defend, but if you look at the attacking distances between this front door, you actually have to come all the way back here, all the way down and around to break down those rocks, and then you're at the back door, whereas the defending person only has to come from here, back here, and then he's defended both places. So going into each player's base, BratOK doing some pretty standard stuff, supply depot, 10 supply depot. Meanwhile, White Raw going with a 9 supply depot and 12 gateway. All this really standard stuff. So expect to see a little bit of a more macro-oriented game, as looks like BratOK just checking for some cheese coming out from White Raw. White Raw not doing any of that, just gonna come down and scout. So all standard stuff coming out from both players right now. Looks like the probes are gonna meet. I like this scouting path a little bit more, because BratOK actually hits the Xel'Naga Tower, gives himself a little bit more vision, and Xel'Naga Towers are always nice to be able to see if anything weird has happened. Meanwhile, you get back in BratOK's base, White Raw trying to do a little probe harass, but BratOK just pulls an SCV and gets it off. So a Marine and Command Center going down, so really standard stuff from BratOK. Expect to see either another barracks or maybe saving up for a factory. Either way, pretty normal either way. So White Raw going for a gateway, core, and gas, all similar stuff. And BratOK losing a probe there. Could have been trapped, so I definitely don't want to lose as few probes as we can. Looks like BratOK sending an SCV out here. Maybe he's just going to continue expanding. I'm not sure, but White Raw is going to see the SCV with the capture this Xel'Naga Tower, so we'll see what happens here. And ooh, look at this. BratOK actually putting down a factory here, so looks like he's proxying that factory, but White Raw did see his SCV, so it's a matter of whether or not he, looks like, yeah, I don't know if he saw it or not, so could be interesting. I mean, he definitely saw the, the SCV go over there, so that could be some really interesting play. You could see some Hellion harass coming out from BratOK. We're not really sure. As soon as that factory is finished, I would also expect to see a starport somewhere, but yeah, it looks like White Raw did at least see or suspect something weird was happening over here, because this stalker is coming over, going to be able to spot this factory and shut down any harassment that's going to come out of that factory. So BratOK forced to pick this up and move it. In the meantime, in both players' base, both players just racking up, looks like BratOK going for the bunker, got a Marine, so I would expect to see some Banshees out here, be able to defend this pretty easily. Meantime, White Raw chasing off that factory, and looks like he's moving out with two Zealots, or with two Stalkers, and getting ready to expand with this probe. So White Raw going with a one gate expand, which is fairly safe on this, and actually allows BratOK to tech pretty easily. So with these two Stalkers, it's going to be pretty important to note what White Raw does with that and what he sees in the space. So expect to see a tech lab going down on one of these two buildings. Yeah, there's the tech lab going down. So BratOK trying to get some scouting done, but looks like he's going to be cut off by these Stalkers without much of a problem. And an interesting choice, an early Twilight Council here down for White Raw. So could be seeing some Blink Stalker micro. It could be interesting to see these two push up, but looks like White Raw is going to push into the base of BratOK, and we'll see what happens here. He's just going to move up, see these Marines taking and the bunker, so White Raw probably expecting some kind of Banshee play. He's already got the Robo facility in production, so those will definitely be in time to be able to deal with these Banshees. And as you can see, he is going for Cloaked Banshee. Looks like he might be getting ready to expand as well. Sitting out an SCV down here. Looks like, yeah, he almost has enough to expand. Been producing fairly regularly out of everything. Minerals getting a little high, so yeah, expect an expansion to come down. A spotter supply depot for later parts in the game when these rocks can go down and do become a threat. So, and really, most of the time when that becomes a threat is when you've got a lot of forces rallied out here, because you've got this middle expansion and you're really trying to hold it. It becomes really dangerous because the Protoss player can easily just come around here and break down those destructible rocks. And of course, it's the same for the Terran. The Terran can also come around there, so destructible rocks a little bit more important as the day goes on. So BratOK moving forward with that Banshee and this Observer, going to be able to scout out his base. Needs to be careful because if BratOK moves into the base before that Observer gets there, will be a little scary. But White Raw clearly expecting a Banshee and just places with these 3 Stalkers and 1 Observer, he's easily going to be able to push off any Banshee harass that comes down. So White Raw scouting inside the base of BratOK, sees the expansion going down, and BratOK just going for siege tech now, so continuing to macro up. So pretty heavy macro game going on right now, and the 2 Banshees in opposite sides. Pretty good strategy here because this 1 Observer is actually over here and this Observer is here, so it will take time to travel between the 2. So if he keeps these Banshees in good positions, looks like the Banshee is moving in, going to cloak and get shut down by all 3 of these Stalkers instantly. Turns around and backs out. However, this second Banshee is going to be able to come in and do a little bit of damage to as much stuff as it can. These Banshees really help BratOK stay in the game and prevent White Raw from mining, and just kind of slows down the usefulness of that second base early. So it looks like BratOK is going to move up and do a little bit of damage to their SCVs, to an SCV holding that Xel'Naga tower. BratOK backing out because that Observer is there now, and the Stalker is going to be able to shut it down pretty easily. So both Banshees doing a little bit of damage, not a ton of damage, and if we look back in BratOK's base, he's got a Marine Siege Tank force coming out here, and looks like he did switch out the starport and the barracks. So there goes stem down, as well as a tech lab and a reactor. So pretty standard right now. It looks like he's going to be going for a pretty decent Marine Marauder force with siege tanks and medevacs to support. These Banshees will stay around, try to do some harass. In the meantime, at White Raw's base, still prepared for any kind of Banshee harass that's going to be happening, and a Colossi already out. As you can see, the Thermal Lance going down, as well as the +1 attack upgrade. No armor upgrade down, but only 3 gateways coming out. With this expansion now being able to mine again, we should be seeing some more gateways go down as time goes on. So BratOK doing some pretty standard stuff, getting a concussive shell along with stem. So pretty heavy infantry army, and just looking for these siege tanks to be able to siege up and do quite a bit of damage to the Protoss. So White Raw moving out here. Not really sure the point of these Stalkers, just maybe to check for some more proxy stuff, checking for those Banshees perhaps, because he has the Observers here. And this is going to be a pretty interesting fight. 2 Banshees versus 3 Stalkers, so the Banshees have a little bit of an advantage here. Going to be able to get that first shot off, first 2 shots, and then, but this Observer here, able to spot these Cloaked Banshees, a huge play. Look at that, takes out 1 Banshee. Looks like BratOK missed-targeting just a little bit there, but it looks like BratOK is going to come out just a little bit ahead as 1 Banshee dies and 1 stays alive. I'm not sure how much I agree with that or not, because losing those Banshees is really not that great. I mean, he only took out a few Stalkers, and you want to be able to keep applying pressure with those Banshees. However, White Raw did have these photon cannons, so it might not be that big of a deal. As you can see, a good probe saturation here. Looks like he's moving them down to his expansion, and several gateways being added on, so we're up to 6 gateways now. So looks like we might be seeing a good 6th gate with several Colossi coming out, and there's charge going down, which is going to be very, very useful against these tanks. So BratOK needs to be very careful. Looks like he destroyed the bunker and is getting ready to move out. He needs to be careful though, because these siege tanks need to be sieged up before they engage this army. That's going to be very, very important, and with the huge swinging army size that he'll be able to get from all 6 of these gateways, it's going to be absolutely huge. So pretty interesting stuff going on right here. BratOK taking out that observer, trying to hide some of the information. It looks like both players are moving out here, so we've got BratOK who needs to get these siege tanks up. Looks like both players, he gets one siege tank up, but WhiteRaw, if he moves in right now, might be able to do a lot of damage. He needs these siege tanks to be up. These observers come out, and it looks like the siege tanks just barely get sieged up, but these charged zealots moving in, going to be able to take out all the siege tanks, and these colossi doing tons of damage to this Marine Marauder force. And look at the zealots just absolutely taking out those siege tanks, and WhiteRaw coming out way ahead here. These Vikings able to do some damage, but these stalkers pushing off the Vikings. As one colossi falls, another one in red health, almost dead, needs to be able to take it out, but the Viking is lost, and it looks like WhiteRaw is way ahead in this game. Just needs to move in and be able to take out BratOK with no problem. That one siege tank, not a problem. Looks like he loses the second colossi, but this is just so many gateway units in BratOK's base. I don't think he's going to be able to recover from this. BratOK trying his best to keep the macro up, but the second colossi going to be able to do even more damage to any barracks units that he's going to be able to produce. And BratOK looks like he has lost this game. So yeah, so what we saw there was the Banshee harass, but looks like WhiteRaw just was it. And there's the GG from BratOK. So again, just a quick overview. BratOK started out with those Banshees, and WhiteRaw did a good job of scouting it, poked forward with those stalkers, and saw just the Marines there, and was ready for the Banshee harass. So good game. We'll be moving into game 2 shortly. If you like what you see, please subscribe. Once again, my name is Janitor. So yeah, I'll see you guys later.